Look at this. What happened on September 30th? New Capitol Police are circulating this photo of a man pulling the fire alarm.
Right. Jamal Bowman was trying to open a door and accidentally pulled the fire alarm in the process of trying to open a door. It was not an intentional effort to prevent something from happening or whatever. Like, the way that Republicans want to portray the situation is just made up. But the perpetual victims that they are, they're going to pretend that it is that.
30th. New Capitol Police are circulating this photo of a man pulling the fire alarm in the Cannon building. Looks a lot like Jamal Bowman.
The Cannon building, I went there. There are like 5 office buildings that federal representatives have where their offices are. They have like a big Capitol building where the chambers are, where they hold their votes and stuff. But they have offices in a bunch of different buildings. Cannon is one of them.
Interestingly enough, that building is named after who I talked about at the beginning of the program. Jim Cannon was the last time it came up for a vote.
What? I don't remember him mentioning Jim Cannon. Okay. Is that even true? The most trivial stuff you got to doubt them on. I'm not sure if this is even true. Be skeptical.
So look at this. NBC Post. Bowman's office acknowledged he pulled the alarm, but suggested it was unintentional. I'm not sure how did he trip?
No, he was trying to get out of the door and thought that, you know, if you just press like the little thing in, then it will open the door. But apparently the little thing set off the fire alarm. That's my understanding. And I don't have any reason to doubt that that's true, because whatever they believe he's trying to prevent from happening was going to happen anyways. So, like, what was the point?
But look, it doesn't stop there. Let's go to MSDNC and see what they had to say.
MSDNC. Well, I don't know what MSNBC had to say immediately after, but I guess as we got more information on the situation, it became clearer that it was an accident.
Like, we should give him a little break. Maybe he accidentally pulled it. Watch.
Last thing I want to mention, and then we're going to take a quick break. There was a mention of Jamal Bowman, Congressman Jamal Bowman, and the pulling of some sort of fire alarm. And I just want to read for you some of the reporting so you understand what actually went on there. There were some reports that began to emerge about Representative Bowman, who was seen pulling some sort of fire alarm in the Cannon House office building earlier today. We got a statement on that saying...
Yeah, bear in mind, this is not in the Capitol building. This is in an office building that congressmen commonly use. Quick interjection. I won't take long. I just wanted to tell you guys, YouTube's algorithm operates off of a few factors. Watch time, whether or not you subscribe, and whether or not you like something. So if you really want to help my channel, I would appreciate it if you guys watch the video to the end. If you don't watch it to the end, just watch a little bit longer than you would have otherwise. I would appreciate that very much. All right, let's get back to the video.
Congressman Bowman did not realize he would trigger a building alarm as he was rushing to make an urgent vote. The congressman regrets any confusion, just to clarify some things on that, because I know there was likely some folks kind of scratching their heads wondering what it was they were asking.
Dude just thought that he was going to be able to get out the door, apparently. Okay, that's believable since it happened in the Cannon building. I didn't realize it took place in an office building.
I don't think anybody was scratching their heads, Pastor Mark. Come on. Did he think it was what does he think is going to happen? You pull that alarm? I mean, alarms are going to go off.
Well, I mean, I've tried to get out of a door before, and it said, do not pull or else. And everybody around me was like, it's fine. Go ahead and pull it. And so I pulled it, and it just opened the door. That's happened to me before, so... You know, I'm not like shooting the guy down or sitting here in disbelief or anything. I actually think I do believe the guy.
It wasn't the button for the elevator. Come on.
Well, listen, Pastor Gene, what do we expect from a Democrat, right? I mean, just think about the lunacy that's coming from the Democratic Party and those that are elected by that party.
Dude, the hate and derision and vitriol behind this guy's words is so disturbing.
The evil, liberal left intention that is happening and the things that are coming out of their mouth. These are the same people that believe that it's okay for a late-term baby to be aborted. These are the same.
No, that's a fabrication. I don't personally believe that it's okay for a baby to be aborted in the 9th month unless there are special circumstances, like I don't know, the baby is not going to survive, like it's not even a baby, like the brain has not developed, or they have, what is it, hydrocephaly? Is that what it's called? I forget what it's called. Like, unless there are special circumstances, I'm not okay with that. But, that nuance doesn't matter. Just hate on Democrats, hate Democrats no matter what, hate anybody to the left of hunting the homeless for sport. The left is so dumb and yet so viciously smart. Yeah, exactly. Isn't it interesting how their enemy is simultaneously weak and strong? They're too strong for them to overcome, yet too weak to govern. But we're still the best ones to be in control here. Fascinating.
People who agree that there's no longer two sexes in the world, but there are be whatever you want to be.
That there are be whatever you want to be. No. I don't hold that position, actually. I go with what science says, and science says that some people are trans. In fact, I don't even need to look at science to recognize that. I just need to look at the fact that some people are trans to realize that some people are trans. Simple as that. But this guy is willing to hate anybody for any reason. It's absolutely psychotic. Like, I don't know how this dude justifies some of the positions he holds. It's insane.
These are the same people that think that it is that instead of getting transgenders the mental help that they need and the healing that they need to be whole, these are the same people that celebrate this on a gross scale. So what do you expect for them?
Dude, what the hell is he talking about?
To what explanation that they would give to say, oh, he accidentally picked his hand up and accidentally put it onto the fire alarm and accidentally.
Well, I mean, he didn't know that it was going to set off an alarm, I believe. He thought it was going to open the door instead. But I think this guy, personally, I believe that this guy is just a fool. I think he's one of the gullible suckers that fell for the nonsense. I don't think that he is a bad actor in the sense that he doesn't believe the things he's saying. He's saying it cynically to destroy other people. I don't think that's the case. I think that he's just a fool, honestly, sadly.
Accidentally grabbed it and pulled it down, and accidentally the sound just went off at a time of a very critical vote.
I suppose if people were trying to get out of the Cannon building, I suppose I can see to vote. I can see that. I can see that being a problem. But yeah, I'm sorry. I just don't buy that it was intentional.
Of course, they're going to make stupid stuff up because they have no morals in their policies. And I'm grateful that people like us will call evil out where it is.
Yeah. Okay, Rick, I got a question for you. Since you're the Constitution guy, you're the closest
He's not a Constitution guy. He's an extremist nutcase.
thing I've got to it. I meant that as a compliment. Sounded.
Yeah.
You
sounded
know what I'm.
like,
you know what I
right,
mean.
maybe.
Lance is not here, so I gotta harass somebody.
Yeah.
So isn't? I mean,
Why is he such a douchebag to the people that he talks to? Seriously. I mean, I know that it's jokes, it's deprecating jokes, but he's kind of an asshole, right?
gotta harass somebody.
Yeah.
So isn't? I mean. Isn't this the same thing people are supposedly in jail for from J6 about obstructing government operation?
Oh, interesting. So he's claiming that this guy obstructed government operation by pulling a fire alarm. If it was intentional, seems like it wasn't. And that makes him the same as the January 6th extremists that mounted it in an insurrection against U.S. representatives. And went in with the intent, zip tie handcuffs on, gallows out front with the intent to take a hostage. This is the exact same thing, totally. 100%.
100%, man. And of course, the best Babylon Bee tweet yet is the one that said McCarthy was panicked and looking for a fire alarm earlier. He didn't find it, obviously. But anyway, this is exactly what I mean. Everything written in the statute that they use to charge the J6 defendants with, they could charge this guy with.
Well, I mean, they could, maybe, if it was an insurrection. If it was sedition against the U.S. government, it wasn't. And if it was intentional, it wasn't. There's nothing intentional about any of this as far as I can tell. But, guy lives in fantasy land, so he's going to spread complete nonsense as usual. That's Rick Green.
Interrupting a proceeding, in all of those things. And intent doesn't matter, according to them anyway, because that's what they have argued with some of these J6 defendants.
No, it isn't. The people who intended to interrupt the January 6th proceedings and set out to take hostages and stuff, they got higher, longer sentences than the people that were part of the crowd. People that were part of the crowd got a few years. Jacob Chansley, the QAnon shaman, he, I believe, and the court apparently also believes, was just a poor fool that was like in the wrong place at the wrong time, just a dummy that fell for propaganda. But there were actually people in the crowd who were prepared to wreak havoc intentionally in the January 6th crowd, and that's what they were doing. Completely different. That's why they were charged with sedition rather than, simply being at the wrong place at the wrong time.
It's listen, Eric nailed it. These guys have been treated in a two-tier justice system with none of their rights under the Bill of Rights upheld. It's been total abuse.
I mean, are we going through the January 6th stuff again, really? These people can't give it up.
In the gulag for 3 years. I think they need to get some of their own medicine. Of course, it's not going to happen because the D.C. prosecutors are leftist and they don't believe in biblical justice. They only believe in social justice, which means
D.C. prosecutors are leftists? Are you kidding me? My wife's in law school. Let me give you one thing that I've learned about the law or lawyers or whatever that I didn't recognize before. Prosecutors are right-wingers almost every single time.
The prosecutors are leftist and they don't believe in biblical justice. They only believe in social justice, which means, this guy happens to be of the right party. And so because he's of the right political persuasion, he will not be prosecuted. But yes, that was not a short answer. Short answer to your question is 100% they could go after him with the exact same statutes they're going after the J6 folks with.
No, they couldn't. They went after them for sedition. And for, what was it, conspiracy to something or other? I don't even remember what it was that they went after them for. Completely different situation. Completely different.
And look, those people didn't mean to do this. Some of them were looking. There are people in jail that got sentenced to years in prison.
Yep.
For not even walking in the building. They were standing outside.
Gene, there are people that were doing nothing but praying. I mean,
oh, my God. They were praying. We should have just giving them a chance. What? They didn't do anything, guys. They're just praying. No, these people set out to commit sedition against the U.S. government. I'm sorry, man. I cannot stand by and let them propagandize like this and defend people who set out to take advantage of the government and to take hostages, to be absolute nutcases.
Literally came to the Capitol to pray and did so for days before the event. And when they went into the Capitol, there was no barrier. The police invited them in. They walked around the rotunda and walked out.
All right, this is insane. None of this is true. This is all completely fabricated to protect the January 6th people. They were extremists who attempted an insurrection on the U.S. government, and they deserve to be in there. Some of the people were in the wrong place at the wrong time and were useful idiots, as the Soviets used to call them. They were just there to support Donald Trump. That's it. And they ended up getting themselves put in jail for a few years. But you know what? They interrupted an official proceeding and took part in a riot and deserved to be put in jail because they were taking part in an insurrection, whether they were aware of that or not.
Of course, there was no intent on their part to interrupt a proceeding or any of the other things they've been charged with. So yeah, I mean the injustice, and we're not talking one or two people here, Gene. Right. We're talking now over 1,000, and they're going after another 1,000. It's one of the greatest travesties in American history and one of the biggest injustices.
Okay, I've talked about this so many times. I'm just so sick of it at this point. Like, this is ridiculous. The January 6th people were guilty, okay? And going after another 1,000? I haven't heard a word about that, but okay.
In American history, without doubt.
That's so true. Pastor Hank, you see all this, you hear the conversation, what's going on. I mean, we've got...
Do these people ever get sick of repeating the same shit over and over again? I am so tired of talking about the January 6th nutcases, seriously. How is it that these people can go on and on and on and on and on about it and not get tired of it? Like, Jesus Christ, dude.
Yeah. It feels like, and I'm just going to use that term, it feels like suddenly things are moving. There's not just a shift, things are actually moving.
Because the Speaker for the House was removed from his position?
Yeah, well, there is. And I think, first of all, Pastor Gene, you know, in that video with that man pulling the fire alarm, I mean, you just celebrated your 29th birthday last week. How many times did you ever have this sudden urge to pull a fire alarm?
That's not what happened.
You've got Rick Green. He's lived 7 decades here on the earth. I guarantee you he never has.
Wait, Rick Green is 70 years old? We talking this dude? How old is Rick Green? Okay, he's 52. Holy shit. This guy guessed he was 70? That is a big leap. Rick Green's not going to be happy about that one, I bet.
Yeah, well, there is. And I think, first of all, Pastor Gene, you know, in that video with that man pulling the fire alarm, I mean, you just celebrated your 29th birthday last week. How many times did you ever have this sudden urge to pull a fire alarm? You've got Rick Green. He's lived 7 decades here on the earth. I guarantee you he never has.
Okay, so he called Gene Bailey 29 and Rick Green 70? Why? Why did he do that?
And most people really...
I understand it was a joke. It just was not a funny joke at all. I did not find humor in that at all.
Don't unless there really is an emergency. But here's the problem. These people have been doing this, pulling these false alarms, continuing to create diversions, distractions. They're guilty of the very things that they say that they're innocent of, and they try to hang on the very innocent and command and declare that they're guilty. God is exposing things, and this is what we have to understand. And more...
God is exposing things. Okay.
And more of the American people are beginning to realize the foolishness of what these people are doing. And they think that we're just going to continue to look the other way or really take their position and see their point. America's not seeing their point, and there's a...
No, I think America is seeing the point here. This is what's so fascinating to me about this situation. Okay, think about this. Republicans lost gloriously because of what they did with Roe v. Wade. They lost in the midterm elections, the 2022 midterm elections. They lost because removing Roe v. Wade was not a popular position at all. Republicans are completely out of step with what the American people want. But the most disturbing and bizarre thing about this entire situation is the fact that Donald Trump, though being extremely unpopular, still got 71 million or 73 million votes or something like that. It's still 60-40. Completely out of step with the American people, but 40% of the American public still votes Republican. What is going on right now? How is it that we ended up with 40% of the country being nutcases like this? I mean, 40% isn't enough to control certain things like the Senate chamber, the presidency, and stuff like that. But holy Christ, dude, seriously. How is it that so many millions of people have been suckered into the Republican position? Not just that, but the Trumpist extremist position, seemingly. I don't get it.
The reason that they're the donkey party is because they're acting like that, and people are waking up to it. Now, to answer your question, lastly, look, there's change in the air, and it's so important that those that are watching tonight, that you do not get tired, that you don't grow weary in well-doing. Because, listen, a prophet spoke in 1 Kings 18:41, after a hard season of 3.5 years. Think about how long we've been in this harsh season. And he said, listen, I hear a sound. Something is shifting. Something is changing. And he began to announce it, and there was no evidence whatsoever of the very thing that he was prophesying. And I'm here to tell...
Okay, so the Book of Kings, what he's talking about here, Book of Kings largely talked about the various different kings of Israel, the book of Samuel, 1st and 2nd Samuel, and stuff like that. It was about King Saul, King David, King Solomon, all the way down the line through the books of Isaiah and Jeremiah and stuff, right? And the minor prophets. So what he's talking about, these guys that Hank Kunneman is referencing right now in the book of Kings, 1st Kings, 2nd Kings, they were just supposed prophets that were helping the Israelites come to conclusions about their planting season and stuff. They were just supposed prophets that were giving localized, specific prophecies about the weather and stuff. And Hank Kunneman here is expanding upon that and turning it into some prophecy that applies to today. It's absolutely absurd the way that Hank Kunneman uses, not just Kunneman, but every prophet, supposed prophet out there, Julie Green and others. They use those old prophets that were just prophesying about localized things, about the planting season, and apply it to every day, like to today.
The American people, yes, there's chaos. Yes, there's bad things. Yes, there's foolishness like you saw with that fire alarm. Yes, we're seeing our country looking as though it's being destroyed every day. But change is in the air. And I hear another alarm. And I'm telling you, it is a sound that is blowing, and it's the sound that is waking up in Zion a remnant who is praying, and they are turning the hand of God that is bringing his justice at this time. And we will see
Boy, this guy knows how to filibuster.
The things we've prayed for, stood for. We're going to see a change. And I tell you, it may be the size of a man's hand at first, may not look like it, but ultimately it's going to break, just like in a dam. It just takes a little bit of a crack, and then boom, you can't stop what's coming. And I'm telling you, the enemy cannot stop, as well as what's coming. And
what the hell is he even talking about? He's just going on and on about nothing.
America will be and is being saved.
Dude, I thought that he was going to stop by now. He's still going, for real.
Amen. And you know, it's a miracle in itself that we actually have a picture of the person who pulled the fire alarm.
Wait, was all of that really about a fire alarm? Are you kidding me? Bro, give me a break. He accidentally pulled the fire alarm. Come on. I mean, this would have been resolved in the house anyways, if it even caused any problems. It didn't. So, come on. Get over yourself, guys. God, they're, like, so obsessed with themselves.
You know, when you think about it, the things that could have been hidden, that wasn't hidden. So, yes.
Yeah, you know why? There are cameras, behind every blade of grass in D.C., practically. There's a camera that covers every square inch of the Capitol building, I think, or just about. And all of the Capitol buildings, like the offices and everything else, they're all covered in cameras, of course.
Agree.
But that's, it's a miracle from God that we had cameras there, apparently.
Have good things to be happy about. All right. President Trump. Meanwhile, President Trump responds after his first day with court. Look at this, and then I'll go to Pastor Mark. Watch.
Well, I think that was very good. That last.
Oh, yeah. If you're unfamiliar with what was going on at this moment, Donald Trump was in court over his business dealings in New York City. Basically, Letitia James, like that whole case that was being brought against him for fraud, for lying on his tax records and business records and stuff like that. All of that is coming back to bite him in the ass, basically. And it sounds like it's very likely, at the very least, it's possible that he may be banned from operating or from doing business at all in New York. That's a pretty big deal. It's not going well. And unfortunately for Trump, if you're watching this 5 years in the future or something, Donald Trump's attorneys forgot to check the box that says, I want a jury hearing, apparently. So the judge gets to make all of the big decisions instead of a jury. That's on them. That is their fault.
And then I'll go to Pastor Mark. Watch.
Well, I think that was very good. That last 5 minutes was outstanding. because the judge essentially conceded that the statute of limitations that we won at the Court of Appeals is in effect. Therefore, about 80% of the case is over. I was going to come out and say that, as you know, we're not entitled to a jury, which is pretty...
No, you are entitled to a jury if your stupid-ass lawyers had checked the box, but they didn't. So you're not entitled to a jury because you hire bad lawyers, probably because the good ones won't go anywhere near your case.
Unusual in the United States of America, so we think it's very unfair that I don't have a jury, but...
Blame your lawyers for that one, Donald.
The judge's last statement was very fair, and if I...
Sadly, we couldn't get any cameras in, so we don't actually fully know exactly what was said or any of that stuff, but, you know, apparently Donald felt that overall it was very unfair, but the last 5 minutes were very fair. I don't know.
But the judge's last statement was very fair, and if I read it right, I'll let perhaps one of the lawyers speak to it. But Cliff, maybe you'll speak to it if you would. But the way I interpret that, and the way everyone else in the room seems to interpret that, is that the statute of limitations is a very real thing in this country, and that would be about 80% of this case would be over.
Okay, again, I don't know what the hell he's talking about exactly, but I do know that the statute of limitations exists in this country because how are you going to charge somebody with a crime after 20 years? All of the evidence and the witnesses have gone away, basically. That's also why Donald Trump likes to delay any case that he has. He's always done it this way, civil cases or whatever. He tries to delay the case as long as humanly possible because the longer he can delay the case from taking place, the better chance he has of winning. Witnesses die or get cold feet, evidence degrades, so on and so forth. So I'm actually in favor of a statute of limitations in some cases. I don't know about this specific case. I would have to know more about it to say if it's reasonable or not. Also, the statute of limitations, the use of the statute of limitations is changing now because we have DNA evidence and we have, you know, cameras from here to Texas, and technology is exploding in the world now, and that may actually completely erase the need for a statute of limitations in the vast majority of cases, if not all cases. I don't know. It just kind of depends, I suppose, but we'll see.
Mark Burns, statute of limitations over 80% of it seems like this is lawfare just to keep him busy and whatever they can do to keep him out of running. What's your take on what we've seen today?
But he is running. What are you talking about?
Well, you know, Pastor Gene, the American people just aren't falling for this. I mean, again, every time.
They aren't falling for this. Well, there's nothing to, quote unquote, fall for because he's guilty of this stuff. But either way, as far as I can tell, his polls are not going up. These people seem to believe that Trump is polling really, really well, even better every time he gets an indictment. That's not the case. Or every time he goes to court or whatever. I don't believe that's the case as far as we can tell.
Time that the Biden Gestapo DOJ goes after.
Wow, Biden Gestapo DOJ. How f***ed up is it to compare the Biden administration to Nazis like that? That is deeply whacked out, right? Is it just me?
Donald Trump, every time there's a bump in the polls, every time he gets a bump in the polls, because...
That's false. No. As far as I can tell, every time he's indicted for something new or whatever, he does not get a bump in the polls.
Americans are realizing that what they're doing to Donald J. Trump, no person should have to do it. No person should have to go through that, let alone a former president and the leading candidate who is most likely, based off of every poll, would beat Joe Biden in a head-to-head election. And so this two-tier system is one of the reasons why
I don't think that's true. Trump has the best chance of beating Biden in a head-to-head election. That doesn't sound right. That sounds made up. He delays cases trying to force them into the court of public opinion instead of a real court. Yeah, that's absolutely true. You're right. Yashi stampedes, 100%. That is Donald Trump's strategy, has been for a long time.
Who is most likely, based off of every poll, would beat Joe Biden in a head-to-head election. And so this two-tier system is one of the reasons why Matt Gaetz was successful, because Republicans are tight. And I love what Pastor Hank...
Now, you know why Matt Gaetz is successful in removing Kevin McCarthy from the speaker position? Because he made it so that all you need to bring a vote of no confidence is a single person, and he has like 8 people on his side. It only takes 8 people, basically, to remove him because there's such a thin majority in the House. That's why he got Kevin McCarthy removed from his position as Speaker. Not because the majority of the House, doesn't trust McCarthy or whatever other thing. Democrats are, of course, going to vote McCarthy out because he's a Republican. And he stabbed Democrats in the back as well. McCarthy did. Very recently. Blamed the government shutdown or the potential for government shutdown on Democrats when it was his fault, not Democrats' fault.
Hank said earlier that even though we removed Kevin McCarthy, now Republicans have to unite more than ever, get behind Donald J. Trump and start going after the liberal policies by Democrats. Go out just as hard to go after the evil that is happening within the policies of America. Until then, Donald Trump has said it 1,000 times. He said it personally to me. Pastor, if they can come after me, trust me, they can come after you and your church. And for every believer that's watching this broadcast, you need to make sure you are praying like never before.
Yeah, prayer has totally worked in the past to resolve your problems, right? Absolutely.
Weapons are not carnal, but they are mighty, they are spiritual, and we have some principalities and territories to take over. You have to be doing it now in the spirit, because if we lose our country, we will lose our churches here in America.
Amen. All right, thank you.
If we lose our country, we'll lose our churches. I think he meant to say that the other way around. If we lose our churches, we lose our country. I mean, that's completely false and delusional, but okay.
Mark, I know you have to go, got a plane to catch, but listen, we do have a covenant, as our founder, Kenneth Copeland, says. We've got a covenant, and we're relying on that covenant between God himself and George Washington, between God himself and Robert Hunt in 1607. We're going to...
Right, so right now they're calling out to a really psychotic belief that basically Jews sailed from Israel to the British Isles and then from the British Isles to America, and George Washington was one of them. He was Jewish, and he made a new covenant. Robert Hunt, as he mentioned, in 1607, and George Washington made a new covenant with God. Now the covenant is not with Israel, it's with America, basically. Basically, that's the claim. It's just complete nonsense, of course. George Washington wasn't Jewish. I have no idea who this Robert Hunt guy was, or what his genealogy was more specifically. But there's no quote-unquote new covenant with New Israel. And as they claim, Donald Trump is not the new Messiah. That's like a fundamental piece of the whole thing. Trump is the new Messiah because this is New Israel and there's a covenant and everything. It's just psychosis.
Stand on that covenant. Things are turning around. They're already getting better. We have a reason to be encouraged. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, more about President Trump's woes, as well as Joe Biden talks about his time with Strom Thurmond, or not. We'll be right back.
Okay, wow, that was the end of part 1 to this. Absolutely absurd from top to bottom. Every last bit of this is insane. These people need help. For real. These people are absolutely unglued from reality.